Guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about CRUD. CRUD: create, retrieve, update, and delete actions from dynamic entities. Okay, so if you are familiar with the Outsystems in these latest versions, we can now create these CRUDs with just simple. Come here and use this option. And we have the employee create, created or update, employee delete, or a simple update. But these actions have nothing wrong, but it's not the correct way to create them. Okay, this is just a shortcut to have these actions, but we can, and in the real projects we need to have more insights, more things in order to make sure that we are creating, updating, and deleting correct data in order to avoid errors in database or something like that. Okay, so for example, the ones that we created here, imagine that I have a name that we have here. We have 50 length. So it means that if I create an employee with 51, it will raise an exception. Okay, and we need to treat them. So the way that we can do this and to avoid raising exceptions is to treat them in here in the CRUD actions. Okay, so that's why it's not enough just to use this function and voila, it will work for every scenario. No, it's not the point. Okay, in some cases it might work, but in the real projects we need to have a little bit more optimized, more related to the ones that we have in each scenario that we found in our project. Okay, so I'm going to delete all this, and we're going to create let's start with the create or update employee, or in this case I'm going to use the create and in a separate if we're going to use an update as well. Okay, so for this scenario, for this example, I'm not going to use this one. Okay, so I'm going to use this and this one, and you guys, we're going to understand how I think it should be the way that we create these actions. Okay, so we create an action, we call, let's see, so what we do usually is to name the action with the name of the table, so in this case employee, and we say what we're going to do in this action. Okay, so we create so we give the name employee create or update. Okay, as always you need to give a description, so we set this will create or update an employee record. In here we can set as public, so it means that this action will be available in Upward modules. If you set as function, it means that this can be used and as a text editor, a function that we can use on assign or if or and so on. Okay, I also have the cache in minutes, but right now we're not going to use this. Okay, so when you create this action, we expect two things. So two things can happen. So we can create a record, or we might update the record. So if we create a record, we do not have any ID. Okay. So in this way that we have, so we have it is auto-numbered. So in this case, when we do not receive as an input an ID or employee ID, we give it as null identifier. But when we update it, we need to have uh, one ID valid. Okay, so a record existing. Okay, our as existing record. So what we do, as we know this, we're going to add an input parameter here, which means that we're going to set as employee identifier. So we need the employee ID from the table that we want to create or update. Okay. So here we set employee identifier, and in our action, what we do is, so this has a lot of ways to do it, but as usually what I do in the project, I use the aggregate, the table that we want to create or update. In here, as we have a creation or update, we set here in the max records one. This optimize your query, okay? And in the filter, so in the filter, we set the employee ID, it is equal to the one that we have as input parameter, okay? So when we're going to use this in upward module, we are setting this, it will ask us the employee ID, okay? And with that employee ID, we're going to see if we have a match in our table. If we have, we're going to do an update. If it doesn't have, we're going to create a record. Okay. So in here, we have the employee data. After that, we check. So if we open this, we can see in the if the available fields that we can use for this logic, for this table. So in this table we have the list, so it will return the list. Here we have the current, so it means the values that we have for the current, so the record that was retrieved in this query. I have current row number, length, the length of the query, and if it is empty or not, and also the count. Okay. So in this case, what we want to do is in this case we're going to use the empty. So if this query returns empty, it means that the query did not found any employee ID that was sent in the upward module. Okay. If not, if it is not empty, it means that he founds, and if it founds, we update. Okay. So here we can set the label of the if as employee not found. If it is not found, can set the name. Need to always have the differences. So in order to create the record, we need to know, for this case, the create. So we're going to use this is a new value. If it is update, it's a field that we have already set. but we need to update them. So in this case, we need to see the fields that we have for this table. So we have name, age, gender. So I'm going to set all of them. Okay, so we have, oh, sorry. So we have name, we have name, we have age, we have gender, also this field, and also we have the monitor or control fields. So when we are creating, we need to set the created at, so when it was created, the time, and also the time, and also who created the record. Okay. For this case, we also want to set the active, so if the record is active or not. Okay. So in this case, when we are creating, we're going to set the created at. So the created at is the current date time, and the created by we can set as get user ID. So it means that this is the function of Outsystems, and what we'll do is to get the user ID that is logged in the app. Okay, but in some cases, when this is used, if it is inside of a timer or a process which runs asynchronously, we will not have the user ID. Okay, so I'm not going to use this one, but if you're not using this in a timer or a process, you can use the get user ID, but you need to make sure that you're never going to use this, okay, as a timer or in a timer or a process. So in my experience, what I do is to set a new input parameter, user ID, and where I'm going to use this, I'm going to set the user ID. So imagine that I'm using this on a process. I set in the process a new user ID input parameter, and the upward module regarding to the process, that one, which will be a front end, we can use the user ID. And that user ID will be the get user ID, so the user ID that is logged in the app. Okay. In the future, in the next videos, I'm going to show you the differences in order for you to understand why I'm doing this. Okay. So here I'm going to set user identifier. In here, we can set the created by as user identifier, and also when we are creating, we need to set the active to true. Okay. Okay. So we have now our control fields set, and we also need to have the name, age, gender, and NIF. So in this case, we need always to set input parameters, okay, in order to know the values that we have in the front end. In this case, you can use you can do this from two ways. Okay, so you can set the employee as the whole object, and if you use this, you no longer need the employee ID. You can just use the one that we have here. But I don't want to do this. Okay, so and why? So I do not want to have all these fields hanging around module to module, and I just want to get super efficient and have just the ones that I need. Okay, so I'm not going to use this, and instead I'm going to use this. Okay, I cannot use it like this. Let me check if I can use like this. Yeah, so I'm just going to use this one, this for, okay, instead of using everything. So 10, I'm just gonna use this 4. Okay, you see the this 5. Okay, this is the difference. Okay, instead of using 10, you can use 5. This is where we are optimizing our code. Okay, in here we just need to set the name as the input parameter, age as the age, gender, it will be a gender. I don't know why he didn't catch it. Okay, and then if we're going to use the NIF. Okay, so for the create, this setting the values, it's done. Okay, so I'm just gonna use in this case the create employee, and here I just need to set this, the current. Okay, why? Because we just have one, so it will be always the current. Here we are setting, don't forget, we are setting the values from here, the aggregate, the query, for every field. So here we assign, and here we create. Also in the CRUD, we need always, depending on the action, but we need to have the employee ID output. So the one that was created, the ID. Okay, so here I'm going to use the employee identifier. Let me just add a description, created or updated. In here we can set the output. So we need to set the output, it's equal to the one that was created. Okay. So let's do, when it founds the record, we're going to use the update record action. So here you do the sign, we just copy and paste the sign. Here we can set create items, and here we say update items. We're going to have slightly changes here, so this is all the same, this is correct. And here, as we are updating, the created at was already set. So in this case, we're going to use the update at and the updated by. And also the is active, we don't need it because it's active already. Okay, so here we update we have all fields set, and here we just set the update employee. Yes, as the aggregates, and also we can use the output in here. So let's set the employee ID output, and it is the employee ID. Okay. For the updates, this is not so useful, because when we are updating, it means that the employee ID, it works, it exists. So the output, it could be just this one, okay? Or do not even need to set here, but it's just a good practice. You can set or not, it depends. Okay, so this is the main this is the most important thing that we can do when we are creating the employee or the table name and create or update actions. Okay, but we can do a little bit more. Okay, so as I spoke before, we can also make sure that this length, it's not um, we don't have more names, more characters that we are accepting here. Okay. So in order to do this, we can first of all we need to check the fields that we want to set as mandatory. So we know that we need to have the name. Also, we need to have the age, the gender, and INF. Okay. For the INF, let's do a slight change. We can use 12. Okay. And in order to avoid this, we're going to check if the fields that are the values of the fields respects this length. Okay. So in order to do this, we're going to create a new folder which we name private, and we set validate employee. So what we need to send here is the ones that we need to check. So is the name. We can use the gender and the INF, the NIF. But the gender, in this case, we can use it, but this is a drop-down, so you need to create a foreign key, a static table for this. We could create gender, male, female, but for this case, I'm not gonna check this. We're just going to check the NIF and the name. Okay, but you can do it as well. It will work anyway. Okay, so let's go name and NIF, and also we need to set if it is valid, so it's a boolean, true or false, and also the error message if it happens. Okay, so in order to validate the employee, we set the employee, we check first if the name not empty. Okay, if the name is not empty, not null text. Okay, so we need to check if it is not empty, or in this case we're going to check if it is empty. Okay, and also we need to check the length. Okay, so the length we need to check. We can use the length function of the name, and also we need to check the name that we have here, so the length. So we have 50, and we need to equal to 50. Okay, so for the name fields, we can check this, and this makes sense because we need to check if it is not empty and if the length is lower than 50. Lower, in this case, it's not lower, it's lower or equal and 50. Okay. In this case, sorry. In this case, it's not. No, if it is higher than 50. Okay, because we are checking if it is not well created. Okay, so we can set the label here, name not valid. Name not valid. If it is true, we set the valid to false, and error message. We can create an error message like employee name not valid. Can use it like this. Name error message. Also, we need to check here false. We can do this exactly. Also, we need to check the other fields. So the NIF, and here we need to change the field as well, but the length is 12. In here, check 12. Here we can change to NIF, and the name we change to NIF. In here we can set an if, because we need to check if we have an error message here, we need to add that error message to the one that we need to create here, or if it doesn't have, we just need to send NIF employee NIF not valid. Okay, but before this we need to check if error message equal null text identifier. It means that we do not have error message in the name, and we just need to set employee NIF not valid. If not, we need to set the error message plus the employee NIF not valid, and we can use a comma here, and we close the if. Okay. So in this case, we set our private, our validation. In here, we just need to set this valid employee, send the name and then NIF. Okay, you can set this as mandatory. And to finish, we need just to check the action. So if it is valid, it will go his normal path. If not, we need to raise an exception. In this case, we need to raise an exception. We can work this in a different way, but I want to do this. Okay? And the exception message is the error message which is the output. Okay. In order to use this, you need just to use as public. You need just to set public and just manage the dependencies in import modules, and you can use this. Hope you liked it. If you have any questions, please put it on the comments.